And we are keeping watch on that storm as it comes together in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, this is the Texas-Mexican coast, just to give you an idea of where we are. And we've seen effects from this storm there through the night, but we're now beginning to see more of the expected northeasterly movement here. This is what we've been waiting for with this storm, and this morning we began to see that. As you take a look here, putting the latest position, which again, this was at 10 a.m., so we're going to see that shifting a little bit more here as we come up to the bottom of the hour. We should be getting a position update. We're not going to see a big change in track until 4 o'clock will be when we see that track updated, but we will at least get a new position. But right now what you're seeing is where this system was earlier in the morning and how it has started to move more to the northeast. And that's where we're leading to these impacts where we're expecting to see that heavy rain. There will be a flood threat with this from rain, but more importantly, in those areas outside of your protection system, storm surge is going to make a major impact as well, plus high winds and a tornado risk. Anytime you have a landfalling storm, you get those storms moving across the landfall, causes friction, and it can create those spin-up tornadoes. So let's start with our storm surge risk. We do have a storm surge warning all along the coast here through Lake Pontchartrain, and this is going to include St. Charles, St. John Parish, and even though you're not in that storm surge risk, St. James, you know, you can get that residual effect going through Tangipahoa and into St. Tammany as well. And we're going to be monitoring this as we get into late tonight. You'll start to see those water rises. So this is what we're looking at. How this ties in with the high tides, that's going to make a difference. Down along the coast, we're talking 5 to 10 feet. Now your high tide is coming very early on Wednesday morning here, 4:42 a.m. We're just going to be starting to see the effects of our surge through that time period at Cocodrine and as you head over to Grand Isle. But these are also the areas where we would expect our highest storm surge levels. And the more easterly we see that landfall happening, the more easterly we're going to see those highest surges. So right now, the current forecast still has the highest surges probably just a bit to the west here. But if we see more of that easterly movement, which is really more in line with how the forecast is likely going to go, and we're going to show you our forecast models that we're seeing here, you could see a lot of this water coming up into more so towards Terrebonne Bay, and then coming up a little bit farther off into parts of the west bank of Plaquemines. As you go into parts of St. Bernard along the Mississippi Gulf Coast, our high tide, again, very early in the morning here and through the Wrigley's and down to Shell Beach. We're later in the morning. Remember, our landfall is expected to be later in the day. So you're going to be looking at that surge coming in and really becoming on top of our high tides, and particularly our western side of Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Maurepas. High concern there because it's timing up with the high tide here where you're going to start to see some of your major impacts from surge, 3 to 5 feet. And remember, this is above ground in some of these locations. We're going to talk a whole lot more about that. Hannah Gard's giving us the update on the latest with the track.
Thanks, Nikandra. Here's a look at that latest track. And like Nikandra mentioned, we're going to see an update to the location of the center point, but we won't get that new track until 4 o'clock this afternoon. Right now, still a tropical storm, 65-mile-per-hour winds, and it's making that northeast turn now. So we're heading in that more easterly direction. We do expect a Category 1 hurricane by Wednesday morning, so tomorrow morning, and then you see it's a Category 1 by tomorrow evening. But if you zoom in, we do have that upgrade to Category 2 winds just before landfall. So we always want to prepare a category higher. That would be Category 3. So these coastal areas, you're not preparing for a Category 2, you want to prepare for higher than that if we do see that rapid intensification. Now, I do think there's some environmental things that could help put a damper on that and keep this at that Category 2 strength, but this is still going to be very impactful all the way across Terrebonne into Lafourche Parish. You can see the eastern side of this track up through Metro New Orleans, east of Bogalusa, and the track shifted slightly in that 10 a.m. advisory. We saw a little bit of an eastward shift. So we are going to see those hurricane warnings in effect for the areas in red, Terrebonne, Lafourche, southern Jefferson Parish. That means those hurricane winds expected tomorrow. Then tropical storm warnings in effect for the rest of our area. So all of the North Shore, southern Mississippi, parts of the river parishes, St. Bernard, Lower Plaquemines Parish. That means tropical storm force winds expected through tomorrow. Here's what we're seeing right now on visible satellite. We had some drier air coming off of Mexico. It's still swirling into the center, but I'm starting to see this convection building around the western side, and it's heading out over the open water. So we do expect to see that rapid intensification undergoing as we see some fuel there and it gets away from those land impacts. You can see the computer models still kind of on this eastern side of the center of the cone, so we want to watch for the potential for hurricane force impacts across a lot of our area. So here's the timeline, just so we can break this down for you. Storm winds, that'll start tomorrow morning, lasting through Thursday morning. Heavy rains, we've already seen that today. I would expect that through much of today, and then lasting into Thursday morning too. Tornado risk all of Wednesday. That'll mainly be for those feeder bands coming inland. We could see spin up tornadoes and then storm surge starting late tonight, lasting all the way until Thursday morning. We'll have more information coming up. Now we'll get over to Shelby to answer a few of your questions.
All right, thanks so much, Hannah. Well, we have been getting a lot of great questions on social media from our viewers, and in an effort to make sure that those questions are getting answered for as many people as possible, I want to highlight a few of them here. First, we have Whitney Chauvin Burnham. She asked, do you think it could get stronger than a Category 2? As Hannah just mentioned, you know, we always want to prepare for a category higher. I do think that some of the other things Hannah mentioned, that wind shear that's going to be affecting it as it gets closer to the coast, and just time. I really think this system's going to end up running out of time to get to a Category 3 status. However, we still want you to prepare for that, and so that's what we're expecting there. The next question that we had came from David M. Miller. He asked, do you think it'll keep moving east? I mean, the track, honestly, I think should have been moved more east yesterday, and we have continued to see the models hinting at that more easterly trend. So yes, I do think that this storm is going to end up being within the cone of uncertainty. But I do think it's going to end up being east of where the center line is now. And I think as we go throughout the day, you're going to see those updates here on Fox 8 from our weather team and from the National Hurricane Center. Do not be surprised to see that storm system, that center line track shifting a little more east. The next question that we had came from LaRonda Langhauser Lovchio. She asked, can it move far enough east that we, in, say, the New Orleans area, get on the west side? You know, a lot of people focus on, you know, that east is the beast saying, meteorologists will call it the front right quadrant. I do think that most of our area is going to end up in that front right quadrant. For the New Orleans area specifically, because that was her question, I do think we're going to end up staying in that front right quadrant. I don't think that it's going to get far enough east that we end up on the western side of the storm. If it pulls really far east, that, like some models are hinting, we could end up, you know, possibly near the eye or the eye wall in the metro area. I don't think we're going to get that storm far enough east to be on the western side of it. So just something to keep in mind, but keep the questions coming. Keep it right here on Fox 8 for those answers.
Thanks, Shelby. Some great answers there. And up next, we've got some reminders for you to keep you and your family safe during the storm. We'll be right back.